Take a look. Take a look. You like what you see? You like what you see? I don't think you guys can really see the full dress, like, because of the way my phone is turned. Hi guys, welcome back to my YouTube channel. If you're a returning subscriber, thank you so much for coming back. If you are new here, what are you waiting for? Please subscribe, hit the subscription button and subscribe to this channel. Thank you. Please subscribe. I'm even begging you now. Please subscribe to my YouTube channel. So today's video is going to be about my lovely dress. Do you love this dress? If you love this dress, please let me know in the comment section. Thank you. I'm going to be showing you how I sewed it and how I drafted the pattern and all of that, with some explanations. So if you want to get this dress, if you want to order this dress, kindly send a DM to Slain on Instagram. I'll drop this link here. I'll drop the link somewhere or the name, so you go and look for it on Instagram. Send them a DM and I'm gonna be processing the outfit for you. Please, if you want this dress, send your correct measurements. Mind you, it's available in different colors of your choice. Just ask for the colors available and they're going to let you know. Just send everything to Slain.ng and we're gonna run it. So let's dive right into this video. I've been dancing too much. So I'll be marking out my shoulder line. That's the first thing you have to do. You have to measure your shoulder line. After doing this, I'll be taking my vertical measurements, which is shoulder to bust, shoulder to waist, shoulder to hip. So my shoulder to bust is 10, shoulder to waist is 16, and shoulder to hip is 24. This measurement varies depending on your size. So if you are bigger than me, you should measure yourself to get to yours. So I'll just be ruling my line. After this, I'm going to take my under bust measurement. I forgot to do that earlier, so I'm just going to take it. My under bust is 13 inches. So I'm taking 13 inches to the end of the paper and I'm rolling it. I'm taking it to the end of the paper because I'm doing my front bodice and back bodice pattern on this same paper, like beside each other. So I don't have to do it twice. I'm just doing it all at once. Thereafter, I'm taking my shoulder line, which is 7.5, and on the same shoulder line, I'm taking 3 inches, which is going to be my neck, for my neck, and 3 inches below. So I'll just be using my curved ruler to curve it out. So now we're going to come down our shoulder by 1 inch. Our shoulders are not straight, so we have to come down by 1 inch. After this, I'm going to take my armhole. So a simple way to get an armhole line is your bust divided by 6 plus 1.5. So mine is 7.1, so I took 8.1 because I'm taking it from my shoulder line. So that new line we drew now is going to be our chest line. I'm going to be measuring 7.5 also on that same line to mark it up to my shoulder line. So to get our armhole curve, we're going to come in between the line, divide the line by 2. So my line should be 3.4 something or 3.5. So I measured it out and went in by 0.5 inches. So I'll be using my curved ruler to curve out my armhole. After this, I'll just be taking my nipple to nipple measurements. My nipple to nipple is 8. 8 divided by 2 is going to be 4. So I'm just taking 4 on my horizontal lines. So now I'm ruling them down. After ruling out your 4 inches line, we're going to take our dart. I'm taking 0.75 inches on both sides, and I'm coming down my bust by 1 inch. So now just rule from that 1 inch down on your bust to the waist dart, and from the waist dart to the hip line. So just look at what I'm doing, and you can also do the same. So now, since we're doing a corset dress, I'm going to measure my under bust measurement. My bust to my under bust is 3 inches, so I'm just going to measure the 3 inches round. So this is what I'm doing now. I'm measuring the 3 inches round to form a circle. If you have your compass, you can just use your compass because it's faster with compass to just zoom. draw a perfect circle. So now I'm trying to curve out my lines to make a perfect circle. So after doing this, I'm going to divide my shoulder by 2. So my shoulder is 2.5. So from that 2.5, I'm going to mark it down to my bust line. So now we're going to take away some measurements from this our circle. I'm taking 0.5 inches and 1 inch respectively on my pattern. So I took 0.5 on my center front and 1 inch on my side front. After that, I went in by 0.5, by quarter of an inch more to prevent, gaping or any space on the chest. So to make it fit your bust perfectly. So I'm just going to cancel my former line. So that's the new line we're going to cut. I came up my bust by 1 inch. So from the center front of the paper, I'm coming in by half an inch. And that half an inch, I'm going to use to draw out our corset cups. So use your curve driller to curve out the half an inch to the upper dart we took up. Then the other side, you curve it to under your armhole. So I'm just curving our cups out, forming the shape. So now I'm going to take my horizontal measurement. My bust is 34 divided by 4 is 8.5. So I'm just using my tape rule to form the 8 to calculate. That's 8 point. So I'm marking out 8.5 on my bust point. My waist is 28 divided by 4 is 7. So 7 plus 1.5. The 1.5 is our dart. We need to add our dart back to our clothes to prevent any shortage. So that's going to be 8.5. So now I measured 8.5 on my waist. So now I'm just rolling my lines up. So now I'm going to take my under bust measurement. My under bust is 30 divided by 4 is 7.5. So I'm going to be marking 7.5 on my under bust. So whatever I have left, I'm going to divide it between the dart on my under bust. So I have 1 inch left. I'm just going to be taking 0.5 on both sides of the dart on my under bust. I hope you understand what I'm saying. So that's what I'm doing now. I'm just going to roll it down to my waistline. So I'm going to add the 2 inches dart intake I have on my upper cup to my side bodies, just like how I'm doing exactly in the video. Then I'm going to roll it down. I've already measured 1 inch allowance on my waist, so I'm adding my 1 inch allowance on my chest line to my waist. So just add your allowances. Don't forget to add the allowances. Now I want to draft out my back pattern. So now that's my zipper. I measured my zipper line out first. So from my zipper, I'm measuring 4 inches. Also my nipple to nipple, I'm measuring it on my back also. So I'm just that's going to make me create my dart on my back. So I'm rolling my chest line. So that's where my back is going to start from. I don't need my upper. We really don't need our neckline, upper chest side. No, we don't need that. So I'm just really taking out my dart on my back. That's 0.75 on both sides. You can decide to use 0.5 inches, so it's not necessary. I'm taking my bust measurement, my waist measurement. So just do that on yours also and roll it down. Then I'm going to add my allowance, my 1 inch allowance. That's for sewing. So I'm just rolling it. So now to prevent folding on our back, I'm going up my back pattern by 1 inch, and I'm going also on that 1 inch, I'm going in by half an inch. Then I'm going to roll it from the ending of my waist down to the half an inch and 1 inch I took. So that's just going to prevent your back from folding in. If you are bigger in measurement, you might have to go up by probably 2 inches and going by 0.7 inch. So it just depends on your measurements. So now I'm cutting my pattern paper out, my patterns out now. So be careful when cutting your pattern so you don't cut the important part away. So I'm going to be going out by 1 inch from the circle in order to draw a perfect bra cup. So that's what I'm doing, and I'm just going to cut it out after. So now my pattern pieces are already coming together. So now to continue forming our bra cup, we're going to draw a curved line from our 1 inch down the bust to our under bust point. So we're just going to do that. Then we're going to cut it out. So this is going to form our cup. Now I'm just labeling my bra cups pattern so I won't have to mix them up because you can easily get confused. So just take notes. Now I'm going to cut out my back. Cutting out my back already. The up is not needed, but make sure you have in mind the measurement from your shoulder to chest line where we are cutting out, because that will determine the length of your straps. So just take note of that measurement, both for the back and for the front, because we're going to add them up to cut our straps. So now I'm just labeling my pattern pieces so I will know which is which. Okay, now that's all we're doing. Now we are drafting the down part of our dress. You know, our dress has a V, a kind of V, so that's what we are drafting out. I'm just reeling my hip line. My hip line is 9 inches from my waist, and I'm measuring my nipple to nipple measurement on my waistline to determine my dart. I'm coming down by 6 inches to form my dart, and I'm just going to rule it. So measure your hip line. My hip line is 10.25. Then on my waist, I'm going to measure my 8.5 also, and my 1 inch sewing allowance. So I'm just going to curve it out. If you notice the down part of my dress is somewhat like a V, so I'm coming down by, I eventually came down by 8 inches. So now I'm coming down by 4 inches on my waist, on the line from my waist to my hip. So this is where I eventually came down by 8 inches because I really wanted my own V to be a little bit deep. Then I noticed that it won't be so deep if I have 4 inches at that side and 8 inches here. So I went up by 1 inch on the line from my waist to my hip. So I'm just trying to measure how long I want my dress to be. It's not necessary actually, because I can just measure the remaining on my fabric. So I'm measuring, I want my dress length to be 16 inches. So I measured from that line, from my waist, the line, the V line, to the 16 inches. So it's 12 inches. So that means on my fabric, I'm just going to cut out 12 inches. And you can add your sewing allowance on the 12 inches you cut out. That will be 13. So now I'm just cutting out my pattern pieces. This pattern, I'm also going to use it to cut the back. I'll just add my zipper allowance there, so it's not necessary to cut, it's not important to cut a back piece again. You can just use your front to cut your back. So please take note. So this is the fabric I'll be using for my dress. I'm just removing the stones on it because I don't want stones on my own dress. I don't really like stones. So I'm just removing the stones, but I like the fabric itself aside from the stones. Now I'm arranging my pattern pieces on my fabric. I'm looking for the best way to limit waste because my fabric is limited. I don't have enough fabric for this style, so I'm just trying my best to limit wastage. So that's what I'm doing now. So these are my pattern pieces. I didn't know my video wasn't recording when I was cutting them out, so now I'm just still cutting my pattern pieces. Please make sure when you're cutting your pattern, just make sure you're not wasting too much fabric. Now this is me cutting my waist side. Then you can see I'm cutting out my back piece, so I'm going to leave out my zip allowance. So that's why I didn't put it on the tip of the fabric. I left some space because of my zip. So now I'm just cutting it out. Cut. And I also left some space down the fabric because of sewing allowance, so obviously. So this is the remaining thing I have to gather on my, should I call it, skirt piece. So these are my pattern pieces. This is everything, what I'm going to gather on the waist and my corset and the back. So this is my lining. I'm using cotton lining actually. I could have used doll face, but I didn't have doll face, so I think it would be nicer if you use doll face. But me, I'm just using cotton lining, which I later ironed my stay on to give it some weight because they were too light. So this is my ironed stay on my cotton lining. Then I ironed wadding on my cups to give it some thick feel. So now these are my pattern pieces coming together. I'm just going to stitch them at both sides. So now I've stitched my pattern pieces together, and this is how it's coming out. So lovely. I can't wait to finish it. So this is how my bra cup is looking. This is my back. This is the back. So I'll be using this bias to create a boning channel on my lining. So this is how my corset is looking. I've joined it already. This is how the lining is looking. I've added my boning, as you can see. I've added my boning already. Your boning will be curvy, so you have to iron it out. So basically this is how all my patterns are looking. You have to use a curvy bust hem to iron out your bra cups, or else they'll just look flat and straight. So you have to use something curvy to iron it out. So I created holes on my back to input my straps. So this is how everything is looking now. So nice and neat. So now this down, we're just going to join it to our up. So I'm just going to stitch that. So same thing for the front. So just going to stitch the up. So now I've gathered my ruffles and I've stitched it to the down, and I've joined everything together. This is how the back is looking, coming out nice. So now this is how everything is looking. I've already joined everything together. I'm already done. This is the inside of my dress. This is the back. Looking nice already. Can't wait to rock it. So this is the finished look of my dress. Yay, so beautiful. Thank you so much for watching this video. If you love this video, please don't forget to give it a thumbs up, like, share, comment, and turn on your post notification bell. Thank you. See you in my next video. Bye. And turn on your post. This channel. Encourage me. Don't worry, even though you didn't encourage me, I will encourage myself.